What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I don't know if you noticed, but I did a little bit something different. I put a little Quasar Science tube right here. I got a desk in this little area because, man, I'm just tired of not being able to use my hands and not knowing what to do with my hands. So I feel a little bit more comfortable. I feel a little bit better about this setup. Yeah, man, today we're going to talk about all the gear that you guys need to get started in your documentary filmmaking careers. But before we get started, I want to first go over what inspired this video. Someone reached out to me through my Instagram and they were trying to shoot a pilot for their docu-series project, but they needed help, putting it all together. Now, the issue is that they had a very, very small budget. We're talking tiny budget. And I was thinking to myself, what are all the essential things that I need just to get the job done? I started thinking about you guys, and I started thinking about a lot of the questions that I've been getting lately, talking about what's the best camera I should buy, what's the best lens I should buy, what equipment do I use? There is no one size fits all. There is no answer to that question. The real truth is that you have to just trial and error stuff and see what works best for you. But what I will do is break down the equipment that I use on this project so that you guys can see the bare bones essentials that I used just to get a 20-minute pilot done for a client. So first, I want to start by talking about the audio. The first thing that you should purchase for audio is a good shotgun microphone. Now, a good shotgun microphone is almost as important as the camera because capturing good quality sound is half the battle. The shotgun microphone that I use is the Rode NTG 3. It captures great audio, and I really do think that in this price range, there's not a better microphone on the market. Now let's break down why you want a shotgun mic. First off, it's extremely directional, and when you're filming a documentary, a lot of the time you don't have control of the environment that you're in and the sound around you. So using a shotgun mic on your camera or even for interviews, you're going to be able to capture the sound that you're pointing at and filter out the sound around it. Now, the second thing that you're going to want to get for yourself is a good lav microphone. If you're in a situation where a subject is really far away and you can't capture that sound with a shotgun mic, or you know that there's going to be a lot of moving around and you're not going to be able to control the distance away from you and your camera and your subject, the best thing for you to do is lav up your subject to make sure that you capture their dialogue or their sound no matter how far you are away from them. Now, what I like to do is I like to run a shotgun mic on camera and a lav onto an external recorder. That way I have two separate audio sources. That way, if anyone messes up, I have a backup, which is going to bring me to my next important purchase that you need to make if you don't have, and that is an external audio recorder. Now, what I use is a Zoom H6 recorder, and this thing is awesome because it's super easy to use. It comes with 4 XLR inputs. It also comes with these 2 microphones that you're able to put on top of this and record separately. If you're out in the field and you need to capture something quick on the fly, these are great microphones to use. Having one audio source is not enough for me. I've found that so many times in the past, either a microphone was too low or it was turned off or the batteries ran out on a lav mic or whatever it was. I always make sure I have 2 separate audio sources recording at the same time. Moving away from audio, a tool that every filmmaker should have in their kit is a good ND filter. An ND filter is so important because it helps you control the exposure when you're shooting outside or in a really bright environment. When I first started out, I thought okay, no big deal if I'm outside, put the f-stop up on the camera. And when your f-stop is really high, you're not letting a light come into your lens. So basically what happens is that everything in your shot is in focus. There's no depth. It's very uninteresting. So when I got an ND filter, I was blown away by the difference that it made in my shots because I was able to drop my f-stop all the way down, allowed to get these really beautiful, nice solar flares and all kinds of awesome shots that I needed to get outside. Make sure whatever ND filter that you get, it doesn't do any of that vignetting or X-vignetting or any of that stuff that bad ND filters do. Go out and invest in a good ND filter. It is very important. Now, this has nothing to do with camera or audio, but it has everything to do with the quality of image that you're going to be able to produce, and that is light. One thing that you will always need is a good light. And I can't stress this enough. I have bought cheap lights in the past, and they have done nothing but waste money. They ended up breaking. They weren't bright enough. When I set aside enough money to finally buy my first Aperture 120D light, I used it constantly, and I noticed a huge increase in my cinematography, in my interviews that I was capturing. It was really the step up that I needed to take my documentaries to the next level. Save up the money, go out and buy yourself at least one really nice light. And the light that I would recommend to anybody just starting out is an Aperture 120D. It is affordable, but it's also extremely versatile, and it's it's extremely powerful for the price that you're gonna pay. Now, believe it or not, I'm gonna tell you about a little tool. This is something that I use every single time. I never leave home without it. And this guy right here is a small rig folding tool set. It has everything that I need, from a flat head to every size of Allen key that you could possibly need. And this has helped me so many times on set. If you do not have one of these, I highly suggest going to get it. By the way, I'm leaving every link to everything that I own down in the comments below. The next thing every filmmaker absolutely needs is a good, sturdy tripod. And if you plan on shooting interviews, which I'm sure that you do, especially if you're watching this channel, you're into making documentary films, right? Yes, so go out and get yourself a good, sturdy tripod. When I first started, I bought myself a cheap rinky-dink tripod because I thought to myself, you just throw the camera on it and it sits there. What do you need an expensive tripod for? I learned my lesson the hard way. Someone on set was walking by my tripod. They just tapped it a little bit. It fell, and my camera fell. My Atomos Ninja Inferno that was like $1,200. It fell, it cracked. It was a nightmare. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm never gonna do that again. I'm gonna invest in one good, sturdy tripod. It is something that you need in your arsenal and something that you should put in your budget when you're trying to break out the equipment that you need for your film. Now we're talking about lenses. This is an extremely tough one because every situation is different and there's not one lens that you could buy that fits every situation. Recently, I got every piece of gear that I owned stolen. Every single piece of camera equipment we brought, stolen. So I had to rethink about what lenses I should buy. I didn't have the money to go out and buy everything that I had, so I had to really think about long and hard. What lenses do I need every single day, and what am I gonna use every single day versus what could I rent on special occasions? Now, the main question that I get all the time, the question that you should ask yourself is prime or zoom lenses. There's pros and cons to both. The benefit of primes is that they tend to be faster, which means they have a lower f-stop, and they tend to let a lot more light come in, which is great because it creates a lot more depth in your shots between what's in focus and what's out of focus. The issue is that you are stuck at that focal length. So if it's 24mm, you're stuck at 24mm. If it's a 50mm prime, you're stuck at 50mm. Sometimes when you're making documentary films, that is definitely not ideal, especially when you don't know what kind of a situation you're going into, which is me a lot of the times. Now, zoom lenses are great because if you're in an uncontrollable situation, then you have the ability to adjust the focal length and zoom in and out. Having the ability to zoom in is extremely important and valuable. On the other hand, zoom lenses tend to be slower, which means that they don't have the ability to have as much depth and separation from the background, so the shots won't look as interesting as they will on primes. They just don't. I don't care what anybody says, especially when you're not zoomed in to like telephoto length. So those are the pros and cons. The lenses that I chose were a Sigma 50mm prime and a Sigma 24-35 zoom lens. Now, for interviews and controlled B-roll, I absolutely love using the Sigma 50mm prime. The 24-35 zoom lens by Sigma is kind of the best of both worlds. It gives you the ability to zoom in from 24-35, which is awesome. And then it also allows you to drop it down to 2.0, which a lot of zoom lenses don't have an f-stop that goes to 2.0. I hope you guys learned a little bit about the gear that I use, and hopefully this answers some of the questions that you guys have for the gear that you should buy for your camera kits. Now, I'm gonna leave links to all my equipment in the description down below. Guys, do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps me out tremendously, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.